Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, fellow comedic lab rats. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Narf.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and it has been, I was going to say a hell of a year, but it's just sort of been a year.
Yeah, ups and downs. The best year in a couple years.
If you don't live in Ukraine.
Right, yeah, no, we live in America.
Yeah.
Recognize that if you live in Ukraine and you're taking time out of your busy being shelled and presumably beating Russian ass schedule to listen to the podcast, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta beat Russian ass to something. It might as well be us talking about Batman.
Yeah, sure, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know who's cool?
Other than Ukrainians who are beating ass to our podcast.
That phrasing I don't like as much.
Oh, yeah, let's throw that one in the bin. Who's cool?
Rob.
Oh.
A guy from Ohio.
Oh.
And Passion Killer 711.
I can agree with all of those.
All right. Let's talk about 2022 in review.
Yeah, in case you're just joining us.
Fuck.
We do this every year. It's usually one of the first podcasts of the year. We just sort of talk about
how the previous year went. We've been doing it since 2016.
Like the podcast.
No, we've been doing that since like 2014.
Like the podcast.
No, we've been doing that since 2013.
Remember the old videos on Blip?
Oh! Ooh. Good. Thank you, the internet, for destroying those. They were cringe.
I have backups. So yeah, we got a bunch of categories. It's kind of like an award show in that it doesn't matter. And we're just sharing our opinions.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You want to lead us off here with our favorite? It should mention, this is a year in review of stuff we did, not specifically the things that came out this year. Now, that's often the case.
But in general, if something came out earlier, but I only found out about it this year, well, it's new to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we start off with our favorite video game of the year. Mine is Elden Ring. Because of fucking course it is. Elden Ring is open world Dark Souls. They put chocolate and peanut butter together. Oh, look, it's good. Honorable mention to Cyberpunk 2077, which I started playing again this year. It has been ingoodnated quite a bit. It is much better now. I'm even going to be buying new hardware to play it on higher settings and better because it got much better. But Elden Ring's good as is. Elden Ring didn't need to be ingoodnated. It started good. So Elden Ring gets the top spot. It is my favorite game of the year. There are things wrong with it. In that there is so much food on that plate that I don't know that I can eat it again for a long time.
I think critically the biggest thing wrong with Elden Ring is that it's designed to be New Game Plus even more than other Souls games. Another Souls game, I can start it up all over again, fresh save, different character, whatever, and continue.
And blah, blah,
just,
blah.
It flows the same. But with Elden Ring, because there's so much grind up.
There's so much Elden Ring in Elden Ring that it is designed to be New Game Plus, and simultaneously there's so much Elden Ring in Elden Ring that I don't really know that I want to New Game Plus it right away.
I've failed 3 times now.
I still feel like, I feel like in a way I still haven't gotten the true Elden Ring experience despite having played and beaten it this year, and I looked like 100 hours of it.
That would also be in contention for my game of the year. Its flaws really leave me scratching my chin. Other games I played this year in equal or greater numbers include Marvel Snap, which just came out in November, so that's saying something.
I played this a bit, but fell off it. This became a thing.
Yeah, I'm Diamond right now. I feel pretty good about that.
Hell yeah, brother.
And Dislight is another mobile game. I don't know how long I'm going to stick with it. Gacha games in general only have so much life for me, but I really like the kind of fashionable gods that are all the characters, and just the general vibe of the whole situation is pretty cool. I guess my honorable mentions would be Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster. If you guys watched me stream, I think that was my favorite game I played on stream.
Final Fantasy V, I've never played Final Fantasy V, and it might end up being my favorite Final Fantasy game.
It's just really good, y'all.
The story's so good.
And Pixel Remaster fixes basically everything that was wrong with the game. Same can be said for 6, but I didn't have as good of an experience with 6 this year because I was having a little burnout because I've played it the last 3 years in a row. I also would like to mention Persona 5, which I only started playing within the last month or so.
Maybe less even.
Yeah, I haven't had much time with it because it's a game I like to play alone, and I'm not alone in the house a lot. So I couldn't actually put it on the list, otherwise it probably would be my game of the year.
Look for this one on the 2023 year in review.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless some real bangers come out next year, and they might.
Yeah, they might.
There's stuff on the horizon. Let's roll along to our favorite movie of the year. What did you see that tickled your tendies?
This wasn't a great year for movies. Like, there were some good movies that came out, but nothing that really struck at my spirit. Nothing that really, like, gave me a deep emotional reaction that was, positive. Certainly not a lot of bad movies either. Some mid experiences, and then Crime Alley, or whatever the fuck it was called.
Nightmare Alley. Yeah.
That was terrible. But I guess the winner, kind of by default, is The Batman, which I saw all the way back at the beginning of the year. It was a really good movie. It was a fun take on Batman. It did its own thing and wasn't afraid to be new. But at the same time, it feels, I don't know, flat to pick it as the winner of all the movies I saw this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Similar situation with the video games. Like, they were some pretty good movies. I would say maybe The Batman. I would say maybe Black Panther Wakanda Forever. A little peek behind the curtain. We're recording this almost a day before the end of the year. I might watch a movie between now and then. It's entirely possible that movie will be better. Because, realistically speaking, the best movie I watched this year might have been the Ninja Turtles movie, the original one.
But it feels weird to pick it again.
Or Gremlins.
Right.
Which is like... I really liked Wakanda Forever. I really liked The Batman. But I don't know. I'm not super hard to watch them again.
But, worst case scenario, if something comes out that you really love, it can qualify for the 2023 list. That's
sure.
Fine.
Yeah, that's... Who cares?
If we watch it in the next day...
Hey, I've been watching a lot of movies in the last few days. We've got favorite TV and or web show.
Yep. Mine was The Legend of Vox Machina. Again, pretty close to the beginning of the year. But I didn't watch... I watched a lot of other YouTube, but nothing that really, again, garnered that emotional reaction from me. Most of it was just kind of enjoyable popcorn fare. Legend of Vox Machina is really well made. It's really well made D&D inspired programming, and it covered the section of Critical Role that I ended up actually listening to more than watching, because I never really got into watching them. It was mostly a podcast for me, but so that was nice. I already sort of knew what was going to happen, but I loved the changes and the adaptations and just sort of seeing these characters that I already knew brought to life. That was really fun. I don't know that I watched a lot of other TV shows this year.
I mean, we watched the Marvel stuff. We watched the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, but the Marvel stuff was mid this year.
It was up and down. Yeah, there was a lot of all around.
And the Star Wars stuff was what? Fucking Andor?
And Kenobi.
And Kenobi. And you know what? Kenobi deserves an honorable mention. Kenobi was good. Andor was good. I liked it, but it was slow. But The Legend of Vox Machina was fun and good and made me laugh, and I had a fun time with it.
I had some issues with the first half of Legend of Vox Machina, and they did a lot of emotional whiplash, condensing 3-hour roleplay sessions into parts of half-hour episodes.
Well, and the show did emotional whiplash because the campaign does emotional whiplash because
right, but it's
Matt
usually,
Mercer's trying to DM something serious and his players are a bunch of shitlords.
It's usually peaks and valleys, not a lie detector test when people ask if I love the Ninja Turtles and I say no. Speaking of which, my show of the year is probably Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Took me a while to get to it. I watched it.
Oh, I'm dumb. Yours is mine also. I just forgot it was this year.
I watched it.
Not this. The next
No,
one.
I watched it a little late, but man, what a great interpretation of the characters. I hope we get a little more, but I'm not sure we will with the. I forget the man's name, but with the new movie coming out next year. But also in strong contention is Peacemaker.
Yeah, I changed my answer. It's fucking Peacemaker. Peacemaker ruled. I just forgot it was this year. Honestly.
What Critical Role does with emotional whiplash, Peacemaker manages to pull off with aplomb. Never mind that it is an incredibly well-written show.
Yeah, like Peacemaker was great. It was. I just totally forgot. My brain just categorized it as late 2021, even though it's just not the case at all.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was well written. It was
Exciting.
and an absurdly good performance from John Cena, even more so than his performance in the Suicide Squad, which was already good.
I have honorable mentions for Kenobi, the web show now in the 90s, which has been really fun. That did debut this year. And I got into Secret Galaxy, used to be known as Toy Galaxy. You know how I love nostalgia documentary stuff, and that's absolutely got it going on. As for a lot of these entries, just in case you don't know, stuff like Peacemaker and The Legend of Vox Machina and The Batman and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we did podcasts on these. So if you want some more details on our thoughts,
They're there.
They're available. Yeah.
Scroll down.
Alrighty. Favorite RPG character you played? We consider that NPCs count, but that's not the case this year.
No, we both picked characters we played in campaigns the other one DM'd. Which isn't super surprising. We are, by and large part, each other's DM. Mine was Rogju Klar, a 3-creen cowboy in space. In what was like a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque space opera D&D campaign that my friend here ran. Rogju Klar, as you may be able to tell from his name being a pun on the words Roger Clark, was Arthur Morgan, but a bug man. I got to play a character who was just unabashedly a riff on one of the characters who has affected me most in fiction in the last few years. It was fun, and I got to play in a very fun group with a lot of laughs, and it brought out the happier, more happy-go-lucky side of a character who's in a, well, it's not a tragedy, but it's not a nice, happy ending for that guy.
A classical tragedy.
Yeah.
I chose Walden Cadmiel Tennyson Quimby, 16th Viscount of the House of Black, third of his name, as my favorite character this year, a bugbear fighter.
Fighter, yes.
Who Monster Hunter, I think, was the subclass, and was a noble, in case you can't tell by his name. I'm not done with him, and that's the beautiful part. Hopefully we get back to that next year. Maybe not, depending on how long our next campaign goes. But, yeah, it just really fun mechanically and to play. The contrast in that campaign between, this high nobility, never really had to deal with strife character meeting two poor people and becoming their best friend. It was really entertaining, and the contrast that lies between was fun. And I got to be a little deep and complicated at times, too, and that's also good, because we were looking for something that was a little more serious. So, kudos to the mysterious DM who managed to pull that one off.
I accidentally made it really sad. But
It implies that you were trying to sabotage the campaign that we asked you to make somewhat serious. I was going to make it a light romp, completely in contrast to what they asked, but I succeeded.
Darn. I don't know that I have a lot more to add there, but
it's pretty nice. We usually I know last year I had some struggles and kind of like some question marks. So it was really nice to have very strong, vital role-playing experiences. And we kept up on both games a lot.
Which it can be hard as a long-time player of D&D. The hardest part of D&D is getting a number of humans in the same room for the same task.
And both of these campaigns, ironically, stopped before they were necessarily intended to. I'm comfortable if mine never picks up again. I'd like to go back to it, but, you know, it is what it is. I managed to
wrap up. He managed to do a fun finale that didn't leave a whole lot of loose ends behind and fit the tone of the campaign quite well.
And I did a stupid thing that was a year in the making.
He did.
It was absolutely spectacular, and everyone loved it. And I'm not even joking. Yeah, I feel good about where our role-playing situation has blossomed in the last year.
I got to tell a lot of fun world-building stories as a DM, and that was nice for me.
Yeah, man, sometime I should play something that's more like a researcher, someone who like makes notes about that kind of thing, just to indulge in that. Because like I always want to interact with it, but I end up playing characters that are very Meister Jaeger about that.
You do.
Meister Jaeger is a reference to a video game I played a long time ago. I gave a character a dumb name and kept speeding through the dialogue.
Because he found the dialogue stupid.
It was stupid. Well, let's mosey on to the surprise of the year. Also known as the I Was Wrong Award.
Yeah. Mine is Vincent Kennedy McMahon retired. If you had asked me if I was comfortable betting my life savings that he would die in the chair, I would have bet that. I wouldn't have even blinked. I would have been confident. I would have considered you stupid for offering the bet. And no, he retired. He was forced out by circumstance, but I figured he would rather burn the whole company down around his ears than do that, to be honest.
I mean, he's still trying. He's trying to get back in the chair, just nobody wants him.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon retired in 2022. I have us being hit by a fucking world-ending meteor as higher likelihood than that in my brain, and it happened, and it still doesn't feel real. It still feels like a work somehow, because it's just so completely unlikely in my brain.
And also because I've seen the show since then.
Honorable mention is somehow CM Punk is on this list again. Turns out he's still an asshole. He had me convinced. He worked me. Go back and listen to this version of last year's podcast, and
he has potential to be on again, because like literally in the last couple weeks, Dax Harwood has been simping for CM Punk so hard, and CM Punk is like, "Yeah, I'm nice. I'm basically Jesus. Everyone loves me," and it's.
If he ends up on this fucking list again next year, I swear to you, I just... It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster when Phil's in town.
Those were definitely the biggest. I'm having a hard time thinking about anything that was that surprising. There were maybe a couple of like I was wrongs about, oh, this was actually better than I thought. But man, there is just nothing as titanic as Vince McMahon retiring. That's just such a... That is also mine, for the record. Both of those. Both Vince retiring and CM Punk fucking it up. Breaking his foot off in his mouth. It's... Even as the year went on, and it like seemed more and more likely as time went on that maybe he was going to sell the company, you know, with the way they were releasing talent, or maybe he was going to, you know, move it off onto Nick Khan or whatever. When it finally happened, it was just so nonchalant.
Yeah, people had been speculating about it for a long time before it happened. And
yeah.
I just assumed they were wrong. I fully assumed it was copium. Because Vince McMahon is a demon in human skin, and you wanted to be rid of him, and I understand that, but it's not going to happen. He's a demon. He's not going to give up. No, I was just wrong. He did. What the fuck is even this timeline?
I hope it ends up with WWE being good again. That's not the case right now.
No, it's not. I'd hope. But it is mostly still just the same product.
And if you want to hear more of our thoughts on that, hey, we did a couple of WWE pay-per-view podcasts this year. Check those out. Favorite activity or thing you did the most this year?
Well, I have two answers for this because it's two very different things. Favorite activity, Journey of Wrestling. I have, it was on my list last year, I believe, and it was really fun and good, and this year is no different. It's really fun and really good, and it's my favorite thing that we do for the channel at this point.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Well,
I do love me a good podcast, don't get me wrong. But
well, I mean, this is airing after the first, so I'm really excited for the return of Violent Profiles.
I don't do that. That's a you
You
thing.
don't. You don't. You watch it and tell me that it's not terrible.
But I'm also excited for that. But my favorite thing that I am involved in on this channel is Journey of Wrestling. I mean, I'm not immune to feedback. It's also the thing that has gotten the biggest response in a long time.
And that's great. Like, we really do actually... I know, you heard the spiel at the beginning. It is part of the engagement thing. I want you guys to comment so our video gets up there and we get popular and people give me money.
But I still read them.
I read them too, and I try to respond to every one of them that is a coherent sentence. And, you know, it's just really cool to see. Even if it's just you guys going, hey, these are my ideas, and, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Whether or not I agree with you, and sometimes I do, it's, you know, it's just nice to have that engagement, nice to be building that community. So, I said it at the top of the show in the pre-roll, but we have a Discord. If you guys want to hang out, it's not super, like, spicy. It's not very active in the sense that, like, you'll be overwhelmed by it, like I often am by pseudo-celebrity Discords. Come on by, chat it up.
Yeah, you're welcome here. Don't be an asshole. That's the only rule.
Yeah.
The other part of that is the thing I did the most this year. YouTube. YouTube is just my version of TV. I watch a lot of it. A lot of very, very varied content. Most of it, honestly, too political and depressing to talk about on the podcast. It's not the vibe of this show.
I mean, you are at that age now. You have become the guy who works and then comes home and watches the news.
Yeah, but my news is on YouTube.
Right.
So, like...
I watched the news from 30 years ago.
That seems more helpful.
What I did the most this year, I was a busy little beaver. I wrote another book. It is available for free on many, many platforms. There are links in the link tree. It is supposed to be the first in a series of 4, and I would like to finish it. I don't know. I'm not feeling it like I was when I was writing it, but it did take up a lot of my time. It's called Red Company. It's a story about.
It's an isekai.
It's an isekai. Yeah. I did a lot of streaming this year. I also stopped streaming this year.
You did?
I would like to pick it up again, but it gets to you talking to nobody. But I had a lot of fun. There were a lot of good moments when people were around, and there were a lot of people who stuck around a lot, and I appreciate you. I worked my fucking ass off putting as much of final polish as I can on the RPG I've been working on for some 18 years now, which is called Cyberpunk and is available on the Patreon, actually.
It is my favorite RPG. We talk a lot about D&D on this platform because up until now it's been what's publicly available. Cyberpunk is, in my considered long-time role-playing game, connoisseur, as it were, opinion, my favorite and probably the best RPG in its genre.
I appreciate the compliments. I think it's a pretty good point by. Of course, it's suited to my tastes. That's why I made it. But if you like modern fantasy stuff and you like stuff from mythology being turned into some modern interpretation of it with respect to the core material, then
or if you like White's books, who are set in that setting.
Yeah. The COLT REGAN series, not Red Company.
Right, that's a different setting.
But this was a lot of work. This is undoubtedly, time spent what I did the most this year. And now it's reached a final phase where I don't have to put as much effort into it. And the more I look back on things, I feel satisfied with where it is. So pending playtesting and crap filtering, shit's probably done in large part. That's nice. I also was drawing a lot this year. I don't really post that content anywhere except my Instagram.
Which is probably not even in the link tree because it's like a private Instagram. It's like
it's like if you wanted to follow me on there, I wouldn't be upset about it or anything. But it's not. I'm not a very good drawer, all things considered. So like, I don't know. I don't want your shitty feedback. If you're going to be an asshole about it, I don't want to hear it. I'm doing this for me, and I post it there to post it. You know what I mean? Like,
to have a place. For the same reason I put the movies I watch on Facebook. I don't go to Facebook. Yeah. It's just a place to keep that info.
Yeah. Yeah, that was... I was a busy bee this year. And wasn't watching a lot of YouTube, as it happens. Our next category is the Anthem of the Year. That's what was your favorite Impact Wrestling?
I mean, for me, it might as well be called like the theme song of the year because I picked this song because it was the theme song to the D&D campaign where I played Rogue from earlier. Because at the end of every session, he would play us out with a specific song, and it became the theme song for the campaign. It was a wonderful little ongoing bit, and I enjoyed it a lot. And it was a really good song, and I had a lot of fun playing that game. One of the reasons I put this on this list where it is because I wanted to talk more about how much fun I had playing D&D with that group this year. It was genuinely one of the best parts of my week every week it happened.
And that's kind of funny from the DM's perspective. I didn't really pick up on that you were having that great of a time. Like, I didn't think you were having a poor time, but man, we've talked about it away from the podcast, and I already knew that, but it's just, it's interesting how little we as, the person leading the game might pick up on how much our players are enjoying themselves.
It is the Proto-Men's cover of Princes of the Universe. I really like the Proto-Men cover separately as a song. It has a slightly different vibe than the Queen version. It's not just... It's not a very departure... it's not a very big departure of a cover. It is mostly the same arrangement. But it has enough different going for it that the flavor's a little different. And I like that quite a bit. That's
why I chose it over the Queen version. I wanted something that was both iconic and...
its
understated,
own thing.
Yeah, and its own thing. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun listening to it, and I would listen to it on my own time, like when I was thinking about the character or making mechanical or character decisions away from the table. I would throw this on occasionally and just sort of vibe to it.
That entire album is kind of fun because it's the concept is it's a cover album, but it's a cover album for a rock opera, a jukebox rock opera that doesn't exist. Which is fun. So there's apparently a story that can be kind of divined in the way the tracks are ordered on the album.
Which is neat. This is the kind of shit the Proto-Men do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have an honorable mention?
I do. This honorable mention is on here for one Todd in the Shadows. Surface pressure is good, you're a fucking Philistine.
I don't think that lady sings very well.
I don't care.
I
don't care.
That's the only part that I have feedback on.
Look, it's not about that.
Respect.
That's a good-ass song, and You're a Philistine, it's a good song. I could go into a lot of detail as to why it's a good song and how I both, personally connected with it for a lot of reasons that I don't often go into on the podcast, and also connected with it on behalf of others for reasons I don't go into on the podcast. But what I will say on the podcast is, you're a bitter old bitch. Surface Pressure was good. Surface Pressure from Encanto, to be clear.
I don't think you're a bitter old bitch, Todd, but you are a little more cynical. Since you're listening to the podcast, way more famous YouTuber Todd in the Shadows.
Look, he's a way more famous YouTuber, and I watch a lot of his content. I really like One Hit Wonderland. I really like Train Records. I really like his year-end lists. But fuck you, that opinion was wrong.
That's kind of something that did get us into Todd back in the day, though. Is like we'd watch a lot of his videos, and he'd be like, "This song sucks," and we'd be like, "This is a jam. Thanks for introducing us to it, Todd."
Yeah, that's fair. I recognize that to a certain extent his job is to be a bitter old bitch.
Well, and as he said a lot of the time...
As he said in the preface to that entry, his job is to be a mean asshole,
Right.
in part.
Yeah. But he also often comes back around on songs. He'll make a whole video taking them down, and then, like, at the end of the year, he's like, yeah, on my top 10 best songs in the year, this song I took down really hard.
I came around to it. Turns out it's good.
Yeah. For me, we're doubling back. You picked the song from your D&D campaign you wanted to talk more about. I picked the song that I almost immediately made my wake-up alarm, and it still is. And that would be Wigwam's Do You Want to Taste It? The theme to Peacemaker.
We both picked our theme song of the year.
Yeah. First of all, that intro is... It's fucking art. Like, I don't want to be big ideas YouTube guy, right? Like, because if anybody, it's such a fragile state of being, okay? But as I watched that show, I never skipped the intro. Not because it was a jam, although that is part of the reason, but because every episode after the previously on or whatever, it changed the tone of the intro. And, like, little facets of the big stupid dance came out more. Whether it was these characters feel like they're being puppets, or whether it was the irony, the very BoJack Horseman-like subject matter of the song, which is about boning, but, like, sad boning. And just how everything contrasted. And, of course, Eagly, who is unaffected by all of this. It just, like, that intro was so amazing and turned me on to the fact that people are still making music like this. I thought it died in the 80s, which is wonderful. I think it's a really great song regardless. Some of their other discography is really good too. Very, very pleased as punch with how that one went.
I mean, you fully agree. Wigwam's Do You Want to Taste It is fucking, it's a jam. Good shit.
Let's move on to our favorite wrestling event. Another contentious one for me, not for you.
Nope. AEW Full Gear. Full Gear ruled. Full Gear was not a perfect show, but pretty fucking close. There weren't really any... looking back on it, I'm sure if you go watch our podcast, there's probably some stuff I criticized, but I don't really remember any of that. All I remember is the really good fucking parts of that show, and the main event, which was just delicious on every possible level. Excellent work. Just top marks.
I believe a version of the metaphor I gave for Full Gear was it's like watching a dog fall off of a high structure. Dogs aren't really meant to fall. They're not like cats. But then the dog is okay. So watching Full Gear for me was like, oh God, oh all right. Oh, okay.
And it was the relief was good, but you were too tense about it beforehand to really fully enjoy the show.
So the buy-in I really liked. The buy-in was low stakes and high output and a wonderful promo by Eddie Kingston. I would say maybe Revolution was my favorite pay-per-view of the year. Again, I don't think it was, much like you said about Full Gear, it's not like it was a perfect show. But in the aggregate of what I watched, there weren't a lot of good pay-per-views this year. Like, it wasn't bad.
There was a lot of mixed bags.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And brawl-outs and, like...
Broken feet,
and just a lot of struggle.
A lot of promises made of spooky pals that are still missing in action. Yeah. And Sweet Caroline.
Ba ba ba.
That rounds us out to the self-indulgent category, the podcast of the year. Lead us off, Robot.
Mine is a cheaty one because I picked a type of podcast we did this year because I liked them all and it's my favorite concept of the year, which is Two Nerds Don't Go to the Movies. We are people who have, as we have aged, me much more so than you, watch fewer and fewer movies, and it's fun to take a look at all the movies that are coming out and determine why. It's also just a fun, classic part of the reason I wanted to start doing a podcast with this guy in the first place. Reacting to content in an amusing way. Content, which I really actually quite enjoy. I enjoy making it. I enjoy listening to it. So it's probably one of the most fun podcasts to record.
I think it might end up being my favorite category of next year.
Because it's a pretty new one.
Yeah, and we had some less than amazing episodes of it, I will say. At least for me personally. Again, much like the DM thing, y'all out there in TV land might have been like, these are great! But sometimes I walk away from a podcast going, I could have done better. Not so much with the tier lists. While they may have dragged on, especially for things like the Marvel one,
Oh boy.
they were fun. They were never not fun. Even if the concept was stupid, I had a great time filming them or recording them.
I mean, I don't disagree. For me, it's the struggle to find good, fun tier lists to do, and the sometimes struggle with the technical issues of the tier list website keep them out of the top spot for me.
I think we finally hit a good stride, and man, the tier lists that are coming this year are going to look better.
That's good.
But if I had to pick one, the 90s cartoon tier lists, there were a lot of good stories, a lot of good memories. Like, that hit the vibe of kind of what I wanted out of the tier lists when we decided to do it as this year's theme. And they're sticking around. Both Two Nerds Don't Go to the Movies and the tier lists are going to be just a regular part of the show, which is probably good because I can't imagine trying to figure out what theme to go with this year. We were scraping the bottom of the barrel. We did what everybody else on YouTube does.
We literally did tier lists. Like, that's the end of the rope.
Yeah. But I had a bunch of fun with them, and at the end of the day, that's the part I like most about this podcast.
Yeah, basically.